Good morning, friends. It's Canada Day. The old Cummins sitting there. She run real nice on our trip. Real nice. I did have a few breakdowns, though, I'm not going to lie. But we'll talk about that later. Nice to be home. Weather's been kind of dreary. It's been raining. Anyways, one thing we did this year at Buckinstock, Buckin and I have been talking about this for quite a while. We talked about it for Bunyan, and it never happened just because of me, friends. I wasn't sure how to do it. Porting in front of a live audience. Well, this year, we talked about it, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to port in front of a live audience. As I port my cylinder, I'm going to pass the cylinder around. Well, at first I was just going to do like a standard 372 cylinder and show people how to port. But once I got there, I thought, maybe I should just port a saw that runs. So I brought that 660 that Sizemore and I traded for, and said to myself, I'm going to port this saw. We'll take it apart, port it, put it back together on the last day and see if it runs. So here's various clips of the porting class. I had 20 to 40 people hanging out there. It was super cool. Thank you to all you guys that stood there and listened to me blab. And just a good time. And again, friends, I want to thank Ryan at Wolf Creek Saw Shop. Every event, he always helps us out. He's one of the reasons why I can go to these events, friends. He always makes sure I have what I need to get there and home. And any cylinders or anything that I need while I'm there, he always makes sure he sends them. He sent about 40 of these hats, friends, different colors. These are real nice. The hats were late, and he overnighted them to the Bart's house there in Indiana. So again, Ryan, thank you. Okay, friends, these are various clips of me doing the porting class. I did it over 2 days, and well, I'll show you some of the video and then I'll jump back in. The lighter I can get it, the better, or I would swap it for another saw piston. We do that a lot. Maybe I want to machine this, but in machining it, maybe I'm going to cut the top of this piston off too much. So then maybe, like, I put 660 piston saws time because it's got a small pin. So if you want to do a big overbore, this is how these stop. Because the 660 has a 12 millimeter pipe pin, same as like 372 or so. If you want to do like a big bore, you buy these. It's what we use all the time. So basically, what I do, I just sit here. Your transfers, if you don't go wider than the skirts, you really don't have to chamfer them. I do. Let's take my finger, I'll sit here. Doesn't take much. And I take my pinky. If it feels sharp, keep going. If it's not, it's probably done. Okay, exhaust port. If you're blowing up the saw 40, it's going to be on the exhaust port. That ring. Remember, 14,000 RPM, do the math. How many times is that ring coming in and out of there? Do not make your exhaust ports too wide. Long. You can do it. If you make a wide port, it needs to also be a curved port. So you want that ring going in. A flat port runs real nice, but you're wearing your rings. Like if you're building a work saw, you guys are cutters, I would say go round. This saw lasts forever. I've done flat port saws and you'll break that ring pretty fast. That thing's hammering in and out of there, hundreds of times a second. Like I said yesterday, if you want a saw to last, anybody can build power, but if you want a saw that's going to last, don't make that port too wide. Because when you widen those ports, that piston, there's a lot of force on there, and when you widen those ports, that piston might only be, you might only have a 16th of an inch of bearing on there. So Guys, I just wanted to show you a little clip of the porting seminar. Um, Brian Hebert, wonderful human being, he brought a generator and cords, so we ended up being able to do it right there on site, and it was interesting, friends. I have never ported off a generator. It was loud, but it worked. I didn't have any lighting in there. It was overcast that day, kind of cloudy, so I couldn't really see, and I couldn't hear my Fordham. And a lot of porting is by, for me, eyes and ears. But it worked out pretty good. I ported half that cylinder in front of the crowd. Um, I did the intake port and the transfer, one transfer, and I touched the exhaust just a little bit. And then as I did it, I handed it around. Here, I'm going to start the bottom of the transfers, and then I handed it around. Everybody could look at it, touch it, ask questions. It was awesome. People were throwing questions at me, and what do you do about this and that? And I think it was just a really good deal. I also brought ported cylinders that that I had already done. I brought a 372 that was ported and a 372 that was stock, and we passed those around. Here's a stock one. So I think it was a really good deal. I think I'm going to make this a regular when I come to events. You know, as long as it fits in with what we're doing, I think I will bring my porting gear from now on, and bring a saw that's prepped and ready to go, and then we can port it and put it together. So the one problem was, friends, is that because I couldn't see, I wasn't sure what I had. So that night, the second night on Saturday, I got back to the house we were staying at, and it was like 10, 11 at night, and it's like, I got to port this cylinder. But I'm not doing it in the house. So here's a little clip. Redneck ingenuity, I figured out a way that I could port. I actually backed my truck into the garage. There was a plug there, and I stood there on the tailgate of my truck, and I finished that cylinder. Definitely got to do a little cleanup on the old grill today, but we bought some saws yesterday, friends. So I plugged my Fordham into here, and I backed that Cummins into this carport here, or this garage. I've never done this before. I ported on the tailgate. This is a 660. This is that saw I traded Sizemore for, and went pretty good. This saw is, what did we time it at yesterday? I wrote it down there, friends, but it was like 95, 124, so super long blowdown. And then like 152 on the intake. So I made it, it's now 95. I widened it some on the exhaust port. Put my light on here. Cut the transfers as wide as the piston skirt would allow me. And then did that to the intake. Went pretty well, friends. And I actually, while I was porting it, I chipped it. I did that on purpose, friends, so the people there could see. And I said, oh, what's going on? I did that just to show people, hey, you're going to make mistakes. And I also met a fellow named Stevie. How you doing, Stevie? And he was doing a little saw swapping. We got this for Sizemore, friends. It's $3.95 for Justin Sizemore, my buddy. And I'm gonna bring this home with me, and we're gonna port it. These two here, that's a $3.94 and that's a $3.95. So I bought these off Stevie. This one's pretty much complete. It's missing the top cover. Chain brake and muffler. This is pretty much a complete $3.95. with no handle and that, but it's got all the good stuff, friends. So anyways, stay tuned, and Buckinstock 2026. If you've never been to one of these events, I suggest that you make the trip and come. These events are a special time. It's just a great vibe, good people, and everybody, that I meet at these events, they're just good people, and and you get to meet them and talk with them, and it's a special event. Every time I come to one of these things, I leave rejuvenated. I have faith in mankind. And so anyways, if you've never been to a Buckinstock, maybe plan to come next year, and we're going to make it bigger and better. And I'd like to thank Wolf Creek Saw Shop. Ryan sent us a bunch of swag, hats, and decals and product for the event. Ryan always takes good care of us. So, like I always say, guys, I don't promote really anybody, but if you need parts or anything, go see wolfcreeksawshop.com, and he'll take good care of you. Anyhow, see you guys tomorrow. Later. Somebody definitely missed me while I was gone. Well, yeah. Anyways, friends, that video there, I laid everything out. I was hanging out with Sizemore on the Justin Sizemore Tree Works on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. He's everywhere. That's his saw, or at least it was his saw. We did a little tradesies at the last Buckinstock. Anyways, we hung out on the tailgate, and I laid everything out, and I cleaned everything, and then I realized I left my moto seal on the bench for the porting clinic. So I didn't put that saw together till Sunday morning. So I used a zip tie to hold the ring, and we glued that thing together, and it fired 3 pulls, friends. I fired it up at Daddy's house, 3 pulls. I let it run for 30 seconds, and then we were going to go and break it in properly. While all the boys were running their saws, usually what we do, friends, is everybody jumps in there and we saw, and then we split the wood, and then that way Danny doesn't have as much of a mess when he's done, and he has a big pile of firewood. Well, there was only a small piece of sycamore and then the big logs. The light colored log is sycamore and the dark colored log is oak. So we don't have sycamore where I'm from. That stuff was pretty hard. The oak was rock hard. So I just said, whatever. Let's throw her in the wood with a 32-inch bar, and let's cut with it. And if it blows up, it blows up. So here's some video. Hey friends, well, that was fun. Like, I want to do that again. That was Justin's saw, and he ran that thing for years by the sounds of it, and then he traded me. I've never had a 660. They're not common around here. Most people in this region run 394s and 395s. 660 just never had a huge following here. And don't flame me for this still, folks out there, but I didn't like that saw. I ran it on video 6 months ago doing some tree work, and I just it seemed like it had a very, very high exhaust roof out of the box, and it was great in smaller wood, but you could tell that it was lacking something for a big wood saw. Well, once we timed it, it was at 95 on the exhaust roof stock. That's really, really high. I don't know why Steel did that, but so anyways, friends, that was fun. Never done a 660, and that saw, the increases I got was such minimal work, just big transfers. I didn't even touch the uppers because I didn't have time. Big transfers, I added about 4 degrees total intake timing, reshaped and squared off the intake, and just widened the exhaust port and took the base gasket out. The minute I put that thing in the wood, it was like a totally different saw. Way more torque and way higher cutting speed and just more power all the way around. But it was also very stable. It started in a couple pulls every time. Restarts, just a little tug, and it would idle all day long. When I first fired it up, it was very, very rich from the tune I had the day before when it was stock. And that's when I knew I was getting more fuel and more air. So, and then to throw it back in Sizemore's hands and have him say, like, wow, what a difference. Pretty neat. The pipe on there, friends, that ugly pipe, it's kind of a joke. He had this really weird, like, straight open pipe. It was this far off the header, and then it, like, swooped down, and it was slash cut. You could see the piston going up and down when he was running that saw. So I took that pipe and made a new pipe out of it and made it equally as ugly as it was before. So he enjoyed that. Anyways, I sent that pipe home with, or that saw home with him, friends. It's going to sit on my shelf. He's a full-time cutter every day, all day. And, we traded for that 2101. He's been having trouble with that saw flooding. We're not sure if it's him tuning it or if the saw has an issue, but either way, I said, well, it sounds like you need a big saw. So sent him home with the 660, and he's going to run that thing. That saw did have some piston wear on the intake side, and we'll see how long it lasts. He already phoned me from home, and he said he put a full house chain. That was a skip on there, friends. That's what I had. And it pulled the skip nice. I knew it could pull more chain. He said he put a full house on that thing, and it was even more angry. So watch for him on the interwebs, Sizemore Tree Works. He posts on Instagram, Facebook, mostly, some stuff on YouTube, but hopefully what we can do, that 395 he bought, and I took it home with me. We're going to do a full 395 build. We've never done one on the channel, and we'll build that for him, make him a pretty aggressive cutting saw, and then I'd like him to send that 660 back. We can look at it and see how horrible it looks inside, and there's more power in that saw. We ran a 660 exactly like that from the Dolmar man, a buddy of mine, and he builds a mean saw. His is ported exactly like mine, and I did ask him about his timing numbers, and he told me, and I made it the same timing numbers and the same transfers, but he did piston work, friends. His, in the cut, you could feel it had, it had more power. So it was interesting. Justin ran my saw and then the Dolmar man saw back to back, and he noticed that the Dolmar man saw had more power, and I agreed. I'd run both saws. But it was funny, friends. The Dolmar man saw was having a hard time restarting. And my saw seemed to restart fine after 3 or 4 big cuts. I don't know if that was a tuning issue, and I don't know if he put 2 rings or 1. I'm going to have to call him and ask him. So that saw there is 95, 124 on the transfers, so 29 degrees of blowdown, and about 156 on the intake. Intake is flat on the sides, round on the bottom, and then I did the little Mickey Mouse ears, and single ring, because I broke the second ring when I was pulling it off. True story. There you guys go. Anyhow, I'm going to upload this video. It is Canada Day. Happy Canada Day to everybody out there. And we'll keep picking through the videos and keep uploading. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. Later.